Right now, there's a cat somewhere in your neighborhood doing exactly what it wants. Sleeping where it wants, eating when it wants, leaving when it wants. And here's the thing, that cat is technically a domesticated animal. Technically. Because unlike every other creature humans have tamed over 10,000 years, cats never really got the memo. And what you're about to learn changes how you see every purring, indifferent, mildly judgmental cat you've ever met. Forever. To understand how cats ended up in our homes, you need to go back to around 10,000 BCE in a region called the Fertile Crescent, modern-day Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Israel. This is where humans first stopped wandering and started farming. And farming changed everything, not just for people, but for every animal nearby. When you store grain, you attract rodents. When you attract rodents, you attract the things that eat rodents, specifically one animal, Felis silvestris lybica, the Near Eastern wildcat. Slightly smaller than a modern housecat, significantly less friendly but already biologically wired to hunt exactly the pest that was destroying human food supplies. Dr. Carlos Driscoll, a geneticist at the National Cancer Institute, led a landmark 2007 study analyzing the DNA of over 1,000 wildcats and domestic cats across 3 continents. His conclusion was striking. Every single domestic cat on Earth, your cat, your neighbor's cat, every cat in every country, descends from one subspecies, Felis silvestris lybica. From that one region, from that one moment in history when humans started farming. That's not a coincidence. That's a transaction. The cats came for the mice. Humans noticed the cats were handling the mice. Nobody signed anything. Nobody trained anybody. It just worked. 2 species discovered a mutually beneficial arrangement and quietly agreed to it without a single word being spoken. But here's where it gets strange. Everyone thinks humans domesticated cats the same way they domesticated dogs, through selective breeding, training, deliberate choice. But actually, cats domesticated themselves. That's not a metaphor. That's the scientific consensus. Unlike dogs, which humans actively bred for specific traits over thousands of years, herding, hunting, guarding, cats were never systematically bred for anything. They showed up. They were useful. Humans tolerated them. And over generations, the cats that were slightly less terrified of humans survived better around human settlements than the ones that ran away. Not because humans chose them, because those cats chose proximity. Dr. Melinda Zeter, an archaeologist at the Smithsonian Institution, describes this as commensal domestication. Domestication driven by the animal exploiting human environments rather than humans shaping the animal. Why would a wildcat voluntarily get closer to a large, loud, unpredictable primate? Because where the primate was, there was food. Simple as that. And here's the part that genuinely gets under my skin. Genetically, cats barely changed. Dogs diverged dramatically from wolves, pigs, cattle, horses, all fundamentally altered by thousands of years of human selective breeding. But your housecat's genome is almost identical to that Near Eastern wildcat from 10,000 years ago. You are living with an animal that is, by almost every biological measure, still wild. It just decided your kitchen was a better hunting ground than the desert. Why would they do that? Because they're not domesticated in the way we think. They're opportunists. Highly intelligent, highly adaptable opportunists who found the best deal in evolutionary history and took it. The oldest direct evidence of cats living with humans comes from a burial site in Cyprus, dating to approximately 9,500 years ago. Archaeologists excavating the site found something remarkable, a human grave, and buried just 40 centimeters away from it, a cat. Same age, same orientation, deliberately placed. Nobody buries an animal accidentally. Someone put that cat there on purpose, next to a human, in a grave. That means 9,500 years ago, on an island where cats weren't even native, meaning humans had to bring them there on boats, someone cared enough about a cat to bury it like a companion. That's the moment the relationship changed. Not just useful, personal. Then Egypt happened. Around 3000 BCE, Egyptian society elevated cats to something nobody else had ever done: divine status. The goddess Bastet, depicted with the head of a cat, was one of the most widely worshipped deities in the entire Egyptian pantheon. Protector of the home, of women, of children. Killing a cat in ancient Egypt, even accidentally, was punishable by death. When a household cat died, the entire family shaved their eyebrows as a sign of mourning. Honestly, I find that both extreme and completely understandable. Archaeologists excavating the city of Bubastis, center of Bastet worship, found a cemetery containing over 300,000 mummified cats. 300,000! Dedicated priests, dedicated burial infrastructure, an entire religious economy built around an animal that genetically was barely different from the wildcats still living in African deserts. And here's the kicker. This reverence may have backfired catastrophically. When the Black Death swept through medieval Europe in the 14th century, killing 1/3 of the population, cats could have significantly reduced it. Rats were the primary vector. Cats kill rats. But the Catholic Church, associating cats with witchcraft and paganism, had encouraged mass killing of cats across Europe for decades prior. Fewer cats, more rats, more plague. An entire continent partially destroyed because someone decided cats were suspicious. And this is why today you live in a world with 600 million domestic cats, more than any other domestic carnivore on Earth, more than dogs in terms of pure population. They are on every continent except Antarctica. They exist in every human culture, every climate, every type of household. And they got there not because humans engineered them, but because they engineered the relationship themselves. Think about what that means for you specifically. When your cat sits near you but not quite with you, close enough to observe, far enough to leave, that's not aloofness. That's the same behavioral calculation Felis silvestris lybica was making 10,000 years ago next to a grain store in Syria. Is this safe? Is this useful? Should I stay? Your cat is still running that calculation every single day. Recent neuroscience research from Oregon State University found that cats do form secure attachments to their owners, similar in structure to the attachments human infants form with caregivers. Roughly 65% of cats tested showed secure attachment behavior. They use you as a safe base. They just don't perform it the way dogs do. They don't need to. Their strategy was never to please you. It was to make themselves worth keeping around. And they succeeded so completely that there are now more pet cats in American households than pet dogs. That cats have their own section of the internet. Roughly 15% of all internet traffic in the early 2000s was estimated to involve cat content. That billion-dollar industries exist to feed, medicate, entertain, and memorialize them. They came for the mice. They stayed for everything else. And somewhere along the way, without a single act of deliberate domestication, they made themselves irreplaceable. The cats didn't adapt to us. We adapted to them. We just didn't notice it happening. So back to that cat in your neighborhood, the one doing exactly what it wants. That's not a failure of domestication, that's the whole point. That cat's ancestors made a calculated evolutionary decision 10 millennia ago. Get close enough to benefit, stay wild enough to survive. And every generation since has maintained that exact balance. You didn't tame cats, you became their habitat. And maybe that's why they're so easy to love, because they chose to be here. Not because they were bred to need you, not because they were trained to obey you, but because after 10,000 years of options, they keep showing up at human doors anyway. That's not indifference. That's the oldest agreement in history, still quietly holding. If you want to dig deeper, Carlos Driscoll's 2007 genetic study, Melinda Zeter's work on commensal domestication, and the Cyprus burial site research are all linked in the description.